that crowd. They know who it is. They know the name. The next generation indeed.
Next Gen. That's his nickname.
Next Gen.
What's up, Steelers fans? Welcome to the Quarterback Carousel. Mason Rudolph took over for Mitch Trubisky after Mitch's second interception thrown tonight, deep in the fourth quarter there. It was a desperation move at that point. I feared that dark days are ahead for Steelers Nation. Reports indicate that Mike Tomlin will be back as the Steelers coach in 2024, regardless of what happens down the stretch here. He is still valuable as a trading piece, so I don't think when the time comes to make a decision, it will be a cut. It will be a trade. Lately, I've been feeling that I'm the last one still defending the guy. I felt like replacing him would be change for change's sake, and that puts you right in the territory of where the Cleveland Browns have been the last my entire life. I think the more prudent decision would be to give him one more year and remove the coordinator decision from his hands. The narrative around him the last couple of years was that he was unwilling to go after the top-tier coordinator candidates because he was intimidated that they could potentially unseat him as the czar of the Steelers. The only winner from tonight is Kenny Pickett. The Mitch Trubisky ship has sailed. I was probably the last one in that boat. He did have some good games in Chicago, but he's clearly regressed significantly. And he made some unforgivable throws tonight, and I don't need him to see the field in a starting capacity again. It was time for Mason to happen. But before I get into talking about this week's game, I wanted to address the George Pickens narrative about him being misutilized. I read an article recently that called for more deep shots from Pickens, more fade routes, more go routes, more posts and corners, and more chances for him to get yards after the catch in space, more digs and drag routes. For $200, Sports Info Solutions will give you the privilege of looking up all of the routes that individual receivers have ran. And for that privilege, I was able to see that George Pickens not only leads the Steelers in the routes of these types, these vertical routes, these slants and corners, these digs and drag routes, but only one player in the NFL has ran more vertical routes and dig and drag routes. It goes back to something he said this week. He said, he was quoted as saying, "I can't really produce when you're running 5-yard routes, 3-yard routes." And he also said that when he's watching tape, he's looking for the opportunities that were missed, the chances when he was open and the quarterback didn't look his way, which seems like an unproductive way to watch tape and reinforces the what we've been seeing from him on the sideline is unproductive expressions of emotion. And certain people have defended him, saying, what do you expect from him? He's a winner. He expects to win. When he's losing, he's going to have these reactions. That's fine. A lot of people expect to win, but they're better at dealing with their emotions. They don't scream at their quarterback on the sidelines. They maybe take that behind closed doors. Those are unproductive ways to use your emotions, because all that does is raise people's shoulders. It makes them cross their arms. They're defending themselves from the kill strokes in the neck across the belly. We feel physically threatened, so we tighten up. You have enough threatening from the guys on the other side of the line of scrimmage. You don't need guys on your own team, in your own huddle, adding to that feeling of, fight or flight. People have been getting upset about the AWS route charts that have been shared on Twitter for years because they don't understand that these charts only show the routes that are targeted. They don't show all the routes that are ran. They discount all the throws that the quarterback doesn't make. So if the guy is running the route, but he's not getting open, or the quarterback's not making the throw, they don't show up on the route chart. As we can see from Sports Info Solutions, the routes are being run, they're just not being targeted. The ball's not coming out. And that can mean one of a couple things. The most obvious being that the guy's not getting open. He's not doing his job before the catch point. The other being that the offensive line isn't keeping the quarterback upright long enough to make the throw. A third option being the quarterback isn't staying in the pocket long enough to wait for those downfield routes to develop. Pickens is a long strider. He's got good open field speed, and he can run away from guys, but he doesn't have good short area quickness and change of direction. He can't separate on his own. That's the difference between him and Deontay. He's not going to run over guys on the back end. Not that Deontay will either, but I'm just saying that George's only really elite trait is the contested catch ability. And you even saw tonight an opportunity that he had to make in space that he wasn't able to make the play. He pulled up a little bit short on it. And people are going to make the excuse that that ball was a little bit overthrown and he wasn't put in the best position to make that play. But he got both hands on it. I keep hearing that if an NFL receiver gets both hands on the ball, he should be able to make the play. If Kenny Pickett had thrown that ball, I guarantee you'd be giving him that excuse, because Kenny Pickett did make that throw last year, and Chase Claypool was on the receiving end, and I realized that was a little bit different, where Chase overjumped the ball, whereas Pickens underjumped the ball. But in both situations, it was a situation where the receiver tipped the ball and ended up creating the interception. It would have been an incomplete pass had the receiver not even touched it. And in one situation, you gave all the excuses in the world to Kenny Pickett, and the other, you immediately made it Mitch's fault, gave every excuse in the world to George Pickens. All I ask for is consistency, and that's where it starts with George Pickens. The highlight of him not blocking on that play last week. He didn't block again on the long Jaylen Warren run from the first quarter tonight. He's got to stop putting out those negative highlights before he's going to earn the quarterback's trust to be the primary target on some of these design routes. Like the Deontay touchdown was specifically designed to get him clean in space for that touchdown. They had Robinson running the corner. They had Deontay running the quick out. They had the slant-flat combo. Robinson rubbed off Deontay's defender, got him clean in space, executed the easy throw. Last year this time, I feel like those routes down in the deep right zone were designed to go to Pickens. You think about the Dolphins game with the fade route. But if he's going to win back the trust to be the target of those routes down there, he's going to have to show a consistent effort in the run blocking game. And he was guilty of it again tonight. He's going to have to stop putting out negative highlights of these low-effort plays before he gets the trust of his quarterbacks back. Getting into tonight's game, it started out hot with a nice Godwin Igwebuike return. He appears to have overtaken Anthony McFarland as the returner in the last couple of weeks, with McFarland being a healthy scratch in the lineup. And he's performed nicely a number of times. He had 2 nice returns tonight, including one off of there was a personal foul penalty that resulted in the Colts kicking off from midfield. And he still ended up taking that almost back to the 40-yard line, putting the Steelers in nice field position there. Danny Smith's unit had a couple of nice showings tonight that set up the Steelers' offense in good position. Starting with the missed field goal, the Connor Hayward blocked punt. Obviously, that put him on the 1-yard line, both leading to Steelers touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, I liked what I saw largely from the Steelers in the early going, starting with the Damontae Casey stick on the third down pass, creating the 56-yard field goal attempt that ended in the miss there. The second hit that Damontae Casey left that ended up getting him ejected. I don't know if there's any precedent for an NFL player getting ejected from a single violation of a helmet infraction there. I feel like that's something that they can probably communicate with New York with. I know that you can't. It's not like in college football where they review the targeting stuff. I know you can't review penalties in the NFL, but it seems like they can talk to New York and kind of come to a decision on that before they make the decision on the field. Because if you slow the play that down and really look at it, and they didn't show the replay for a while, they thought it was too ugly. But when they actually did, you could see that he led with the shoulder. He was attacking the ball, I thought, not attacking the guy, but the receiver was collapsing on the ball, going for a low catch. That's a very hard play to make, and Casey probably decided to do what he was going to do too early. You can probably call it a launch. It just seemed like it was a results-oriented play where the guy ended up getting hurt, so you had to penalize it. And I understand the penalty itself, but the ejection, I think, is what, felt outlandish to me. They had 2 sacks in the first quarter, ended up with 3 on the game. The first one was from TJ, the second was from Larry O. TJ's sack was a phenomenal get-off, cleaned himself with the hands, even though I think he was even held coming around the corner. And then Larry O's, he came through a double team and ended up tracking down Gardner, trying to escape the pocket there. Alex Highsmith does not play the option very well. TJ can coach him up on that aspect. Alex looks like he's just guessing out there and he's waffling back and forth, whereas TJ, he just commits to one guy and he's going no matter what happens. You saw him on that play. He committed to Gardner, he took him down. It's strongly encouraging the next time I'm going to give that ball off. And without Jonathan Taylor on the field, obviously, you're not as worried about whatever that guy's going to do than what Gardner could do with the ball in his hand. Ended up throwing 3 touchdowns in this game. So whatever you end up doing, just do it with alacrity. Don't, go back and forth. Michael Walker was again victimized in coverage over the middle there on the Colts' first touchdown. I don't know what you do with that spot at this point. They're down to obviously the bargain barrel basement, the bottom of the bargain barrel at this point, the inside linebacker position. They've tried Minka there. He went down in this game. They lost Casey to the ejection. Mike Tomlin said at halftime something about the attrition at the safety position. And that's going to be my new meditation mantra. The attrition of the position, the attrition of the position, the attrition of the... That's the limitation of the next man up mentality. Sometimes the next guy up just doesn't have it. And that's what we've seen week after week now, is teams attacking that specifically every time he walks on the field. They're going to continue to get embarrassed until they find a way to scheme up a solution to that. In the second half, the offense was derailed by a Najee fumble. I guess I wore the wrong jersey tonight. And then on their second drive, they had a 3rd and 20 conversion to Deontay. They had a 17-yard completion to Pickens, but it ended in a punt. They chose not to kick what would have been a 56-yard field goal with Chris Boswell off of a clean surface with no weather. That was a very confusing decision. I've seen them kick that ball at Heinz Field. I don't know why you wouldn't kick it off of fake grass when you would kick it off of famously the worst grass in the NFL. But it's hard to spin that as being too big a deal in what ended up being a multi-score game. The last thing I want to say in closing is just when you look at the positional spending of the Steelers, they have the most expensive defense and the 10th cheapest offense in the NFL. And people are comparing the Steelers' offense to these teams that are spending much more on their offense. They're investing much more financial assets on that side of the ball. Obviously, the lightning rod is the offense because they've seemed incredibly stale, especially of late. But you look at the defense with what they're spending. Giving up 30 points is not enough. That's a JV performance. You look at the offense in light of what they're spending on their offense, maybe not as bad as we thought. You know, you'd still like a little more, obviously, but you can't shop at Walmart and expect to have Wegmans flavor.